What is up, all you real estate loving individuals? This is episode number 21 of the Real Estate Take podcast, and I'm your host, Wendell Butler. This is your go-to podcast with tons of information regarding the current real estate market, where we get various real estate professionals' current take on different areas of real estate. For today's guest, we have Lauren House. Lauren House is a dynamic force in real estate with over 18 years of expertise and the co-founder of the Hot Girl School, which is also a podcast, and is dedicated to helping women embrace confidence through healing, vulnerability, and self-belief. She's also the author of Entrepreneurial Insight, 102 Quotes to Shape Your Path with Perspective, where she shares energizing quotes for thriving in business and beyond. Based between Miami, Florida, and Scottsdale, Arizona, Lauren brings her zest for life and passion for personal growth to all she does, inspiring others to chase their dreams unapologetically. So let's bring in Lauren House. Lauren, how are you doing today?
Hi, Wendell. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's awesome to have you on. I love having guests with happy spunk, and you seem super energetic, and I love what I see from like the content that you put on and stuff. So I'm excited to get into the nitty gritty of your experience and your expertise, especially on the real estate market today. So yeah, let's just
there.
Yeah. So let's just dive right in, really broad. I just want to give the audience who you are, what got you into real estate, and kind of what is your backstory. And you can even touch on how you have a name that aligns with what you do too.
That was God-given. There was no choice in that. And it just happened to be that I landed in real estate. All right. So how did I get started? So I honestly was just applying for jobs out of college and landed as an assistant for a commercial real estate agent in Phoenix, Arizona. And I took it. My dad's a developer, and I am such an outfit girl. I just wanted to go into an office and get dressed up and look cute every day. Turns out I really fell in love with buildings. Like, it's so cool to understand what a building is. You've got warehouse, mezzanines, bays, like all these terms that I had to learn. Unfortunately, that was 2008. So 2008 to 2010 was not the most ideal time to be in real estate. So I decided to move to LA and continue my real estate journey there, which starting real estate when you know nobody in a new city is like the hardest thing on the planet. And so when I moved back, I was in residential real estate in LA. And then when I moved back to Scottsdale, I ended up just going right back into residential real estate. And because my network is in Scottsdale, it was far easier. Like lead gen for anybody who's listening, who's an agent, was so much easier because I knew people from kindergarten, high school, college, and I just have a better reputation. And in Scottsdale, it's really your reputation is what matters around town.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've come into the realization too, and just from other people doing it as well, that when you are a real estate agent, the best way to really grow is to like not stick to your roots, but really pick a location and really focus on that, especially when you get started, because when you hop around, restarting that whole process is super hard. It is very hard. And that's yeah. And that's the same with like, if you're a mortgage loan officer, even if you're a business owner too, like if you're doing investing in real estate as well, just trying to meet new people and build a new network, it's really hard to hop around. So that's awesome that you experienced that and decided to go back to like your roots a little bit. And it seems like it's working out really well now. And you have also expanded to other areas too. So not just Scottsdale, right?
Yes. So I still have my license in California. I expanded to Miami in 2022, end of 2022. And I'm reliving the nightmare of like having to start up and start over again, not knowing many people. And Miami's a very different beast. It's not based on reputation. It's based on Instagram, which I don't know how you judge anyone on Instagram, but it is what it is. And so I've had to learn that putting out the value on Instagram is really what makes you valuable in Miami. But it's also made me a better producer, I guess, for Instagram. And it's kind of become fun. I never thought that I would be in this space of like hosting houses and speaking to things. I look at it as real estate. Like I'm contracts, out at showings, listing, not have a camera in my face all the time. I need to capture and like really showcase the lifestyle. So it's been fun because Miami's a great place to showcase.
Yeah, and I lived in Miami for about a year when I was So when I was 25, I switched from I was pursuing being a physician assistant in the medical field, and then I realized I just didn't want to go to school anymore, basically, to keep the story real short. So I had what I call a quarter life crisis, where I was like, I'm just going to go to Miami and just bartend and just live paycheck to paycheck and just figure it out and see what I can do.
And what did it teach you?
It taught me Miami's expensive, and it also taught me that you could do a lot more than you think and make money in a lot of different ways. Because I hung out with a lot of entrepreneurial type friends, and that's how I even got into doing real estate in the first place. Is I realized that you don't need a W-2, you don't have to like live on somebody's salary, which is it's not a bad thing. It's always awesome to have that income, and it's a lot more safe. I'm going to tell you right now, it's a lot more safe and secure. But you can make money in numerous ways as long as you're ready to take the risk, do the work, and be okay with difficult times.
So don't you think that have you found that the people that you work with who are in your position, who are in my position, they're a certain personality type?
I find that, most people that I talk to that are in our position, the biggest thing that I realize that is a common factor is they don't really stay within a box, I would say, and they don't like take no for an answer.
Exactly.
Meaning like if they get a no, they're just like, they don't cower down and say like, oh, I guess I can't do that. I'm just going to continue this way. They find a different way. So it's just a new obstacle. They're the problem solvers. They always try to find a way to push forward. And that's the difference, I think. When you get to like the entrepreneurial type mindset and space, it's all about just taking the punches that you get, which is a ton every single day, and just continuing to move forward.
I think you just hit the nail on the head and said it very well.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So you touched on, Instagram and social media, which it's a love-hate for me. Like I hate social media. I hate the fact that I get trapped scrolling, and after like 30 minutes, I'm like, holy smokes, I just wasted 30 minutes of my life. And now I feel kind of shitty for no reason.
Totally. Not worth it. Not worth the scroll, people.
But if business-wise, if you just like allocate it just to your business and you get really good at it, especially in a place like Miami, which when I lived there, it was all just like Instagram, Facebook. Like everybody I talked to was like, I'm trying to be an Instagram model, which some people love that. I wasn't a huge fan of it. But if you're in that industry, which in real estate is a fantastic industry there because it's expensive and you get to cater to a lot of cool developments, cool houses, cool investments, you got to kind of play that game. So tell me a little bit about your experience of growing into that space of kind of marketing and what you've learned, and also kind of what you do that's different in that aspect.
I think because being from Scottsdale and Instagram is not a form of legitimacy in Scottsdale, it was more supplemental. It was kind of more fun. So when I got to Miami and literally nobody wants your phone number, they want your Instagram, they pull it up in front of you. And if you don't have a lot of followers, they follow you and then they unfollow you after you follow them. So it's also like this weird collection of getting Instagram followers, which is so weird to me. And nobody ever stays in touch. Like they don't like your stuff. They don't reach out. So I learned very quickly that Instagram is really just supplemental, at least for me. And so I did end up hiring a social media company, and it's been a very long process because at first I felt stupid, like going everywhere and holding my phone in front of my face. I carry my microphones with me now just to like always be able to capture whatever it is that I need to do. But it's become so natural and such a normal part of life that I know what I want. I know what my brand is. I have my colors. I have my fonts. I know what I want my reels to look like. I know what I want my pictures to look like. So it's been a very, very long and drilling down on the details of getting to this point. It's just a lot. It's another job. That's why I have a social media company. They kind of guide me and help me, and bless them. If anybody needs them, I'm happy to give their name out.
I mean, no. I love that you're mentioning that you even like hire a social media company, because I think what's important for business owners and real estate investing and other businesses, anything really, is you want to focus on what, one, makes you the most money, two, that you like the most. That's not the most heavy lifting, because you're just going to burn yourself out. So hiring people to focus on the other portions of your company that supplement you selling houses or helping buyers or looking at real estate investments, that's what you could focus on rather than just focus on social media. Because I'm the same way. I hire a VA to do all my social media, because if I had to, even this podcast, if I had to clip this podcast myself, not one video would get out, because I just can't. I don't know. I don't enjoy doing it.
Have you tried editing? Editing is a huge piece, and that's like a whole skill in and of itself. And I was actually just listening to an Alex Hormozy podcast, and he was saying it really only takes you 20 hours to learn a new skill. So if you are willing to put the 20 hours into it, you could actually do it. But I'm thinking like, I know, but that's like a lot of time, 20 hours to get it and understand. And once you get there, you're really still just a beginner. It's not like you're an expert. And then you have to ask yourself, are you allocating time towards something that's a money-making activity, or is this not a money-making? And social media is total supplemental. It's not, bless the people's soul who only get business off social media. I'd love to know their secret, because I still make my phone calls and see my people and touch them in different ways that are much more personal than trying to display myself to the masses.
Yeah, but it's good that you are taking that aspect and still running with like the marketing portion of social media, because in Miami, yes, I dealt with that too. Like the first thing people would say, like, "Oh, what's your gram? What's your handle?" It's like, "Oh, here you go." It's like, I don't even want your phone number. And then you like DM people through Instagram. I'm like, this is weird. This is very strange.
Weird. I know, it's so strange. And people, like, they don't respond to a phone call and they don't respond to a text message, but they respond right away to your Instagram message. I'm like, wow. I actually recently just turned off all of my notifications for Instagram. This second I did that, I like felt this giant weight come off my shoulders. And now I have to like remember to go on every day. And then it's very intentional because I don't want to spend my time on there anymore. It's been really good, actually.
Yeah, it is important too. Like social media will suck a lot of time away from you. So if you have the discipline to kind of put it down, only spend a certain amount of hours a day or a week, not even hours. If you're on it for hours a day, then that's not good. But yeah, the discipline to put it away. There's also some apps. There's some cool apps too that like lock you out of it. I've used those before as well, but it's important. So then you can focus on like your business and like what you're actually doing. So let's dive in a little bit more into what's going on in your business and what's going on in like the market that you can see as well. Because real estate is always changing. It's a cyclical market. Things are going up, things are going down, rates are changing, home prices are changing, people are moving in and out of areas. So specifically like in your area of Miami and then Scottsdale as well, what are some things that you're seeing in the world of real estate? Like, is it people moving there? Are people moving away from there? Is there a lot of activity going on? Kind of what's your take? And it also depends, I guess, also what your niche is. Like, I don't know if you focus on first home buyers or you're more luxury. So touch on that a little bit as well.
I focus on luxury. However, my Scottsdale business is pretty much straight up referral at this point. It's been running for so long that it's mainly repeat clients and referrals of, I call them my warriors, my people. Thank you for always referring me out. And then Miami is just a lot of, all my buyers that I'm working with right now are moving from a different state, all over California, Tennessee, Boston. So Miami is still a hot spot. There are at least 30 cranes in the air between Brickell and Edgewater. So there's a lot of housing that's going to become available. A lot of those buildings are around 90% sold out, and they haven't even, some of them haven't even broken ground yet. So, and then Scottsdale prices went up for a while because we had like 300 people a day moving here back in like 2020, 2021. And that has definitely slowed. My anticipation back then was that people would get to Arizona, absolutely hate the summer and leave. So I thought there was going to be a surplus of listings that were going to hit the market once COVID stopped. And it never happened. It just, everybody kind of got here and they stayed. I actually just read an article this morning how majority of homeowners, because they bought in 2020 and 2021, they're almost done paying their house off now. And so they don't want to move because that's one less bill. They also own their house free and clear. So that was an interesting read, because you know that people aren't moving as frequently because it's so much more expensive to go buy than it is for them to sell. Like they're going to sell and then what? They have to go spend all this money when they're actually really happy where they are and they almost own their whole assets. So, I mean, we're in season for both cities. January through April is high season. Yeah,
because I mean, I feel like a lot of the people that own the properties that they bought in 2020, 2021, they have such low interest rates. Like they bought it and they have like a 2-3% interest rate, and it's free money basically with inflation if you do the math. So it's really hard to, one, as an owner, sell that property unless you're getting an absorbent amount of money for it that is over what it's actually worth. And what I've seen,
move price.
Yeah, it's like, make me move. It's like, I don't need to, but like, if you give me this,
I'll do it.
Yeah. So have you dealt with sellers? Because I feel like, do you do more listings nowadays, or so when you have sellers that are in that predicament, like what's kind of like their mindset on it, and how do you communicate with them the correct pricing of the house? Because I feel like most sellers nowadays, like they almost want 20% more than what it's actually worth, and they don't want to budge, which makes sense. But like, how do you counter that, like in your business?
That's a really great question. You got to hit them with numbers, and everybody learns differently. Every seller thinks their house is the best, no matter what year it was built, no matter how much money they have or haven't put into it, no matter its location. We all kind of get used to seeing our own shit around the house. I hope that doesn't offend anyone. So like what you no longer think is a big deal, like I walk in with fresh eyes and I'm like, oh, this needs to be fixed. This needs to be that. And people don't really like to hear that because they take it personally and they feel like they're getting criticized themselves. So showing them the numbers, also explaining to them what I see right now as far as listing. It's been so interesting. And I also believe this is a product of 2020 and 2021. So buyers right now, unless you're an investor, buyers right now are not submitting low offers. Let's say a house starts at $1 million and it should be listed at 800. Once it gets price reduced to 850, you would think there would at least be something because it's in the realm of where buyers want to submit. However, that's not the case. If you were to reduce it to 800, you would have multiple offers and probably a few backups. They're like, and then so then they're bidding it back to where it previously came from. They're bidding it back up. And I hired an agent who got his license in COVID when I had a team earlier, well, I guess a year ago now. And he was telling me, he's like, yeah, my buyers want to submit a low offer. I would never tell them to do that. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Why would you not do that? And he's like, because that's not what you do. You wait till it gets to where it needs to be and then you submit. And I was like, oh, that's why this is happening. I think so many agents have hit the market that they don't know how to lowball an offer or negotiate properly. They only know how to submit offers for their buyers and like play the multiple offer game. So it's been interesting. So when I tell sellers, listen, you need to price, let's say they want to list at 1.2. If I can get them to 1.1, then I let them know buyers will let you know if it's worth 1.2 because you will have multiple offers. And if that's not the case, and then you're sitting on the market for 3 weeks, a month, then you know 1.1's even too high. And I'm glad we didn't list it at 1.2. They're going to hear what they want to hear at the end of the day.
Yeah. Sellers want to hear what they want to hear. That's perfectly well said. You can say whatever you want, and they're like, and then the second you say,
like, I'm just talking to like 5 other guys, but I'll still see you once a week. Okay, once a week, cool.
Yeah. What's funny is that a lot of those sellers that like just want to be told what they want to hear, they'll go down that path with like that real estate agent that are like, whatever, yeah, I'll list it at that amount. And then they list it, never sells, takes 6 months. You start doing the price reduction thing. Then buyers start asking questions. Why is this price reduction? Like, why is this going down in price? Like, what's wrong with this? Why has it been sitting so long? There must be something wrong with it. And then, then they're stuck because one, you almost have to like take it off the listing, let it wait a little bit, and then kind of relist it to like avoid those questions again in that mindset. So that's, it's funny dealing with like the seller psychology of listing houses. And I love that you brought up like the new agents that came in through COVID, because there's a huge, real estate during COVID was, if you were already in the game and you had years of experience, like I'm sure those were like some of your best years and you're like, this is awesome. But everybody from the,
submitting 17 offers for each client. It was wild ride.
Oh yeah. You're just reaping the rewards of like your long, hard work of being like in the business for 15 years. People see that on like social media, or they see like how well you're doing and they're like, oh wow, why don't I just become an agent? Right. So everybody just stops what they're doing and they become an agent, and they have no idea how to work with sellers, work with buyers. And I think you hit the nail on the head by saying you're seeing a lot of people aren't submitting offers because they're using agents that don't really understand how to like negotiate and like the whole process. And I think eventually that they'll get weeded out, because if you're a bad agent, word gets around, people talk, and then all of a sudden you're not being used a lot and you're like, okay, I either gotta fix myself or I'm gonna get out of the game. And I think they'll get weeded out, but I think we're in an area that you are still seeing issues with that big surplus of new real estate agents. Plus, I feel like during COVID, there was a lot of people that didn't even have to try to list, right? You would just put up a picture with your phone with like your thumb in it and you'd be like, we want $1 million for this thing. And then someone would come in hot and they'd be like, hey, we'll give you like 1.2 cash. And you're like, cool. All right. But like nowadays you actually have to sell. So like going through that whole shift of COVID to now, what have you been seeing based on like you were talking about before, like agents and how they might be getting weeded out, and how you have continued to like do the right things to sell? Because nowadays it's even harder to sell, I feel like, and it's even harder to buy. So yeah, just give some mindset and some inspiration based on like what you do to like get through that, especially for like people that are watching that are having trouble doing it themselves.
Yeah, it's not going to be what anybody wants to hear. You have to decide what kind of sellers and buyers you're willing to work with. Is this person going to be a waste of time? Is this person worth it? If you don't feel like the house is worth selling, or these people are going to be difficult, you could be wasting your time. I'm at a point in my life where I don't need the business. I'm actually now go on listing appointments to see if it's the right fit, which is very different than when you're in the beginning of your career and you're like, I'll do anything, just give me the listing, I'll work my ass off, But now when you're like a seasoned agent, you're like, I don't want to be burned. I don't want to be treated poorly. I want you to respect me, and I'm going to work my butt off to make sure that you're happy, but it has to be a mutual relationship. So
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the key, is just getting really honest with yourself to understand what your value is and what your time value is. It's hard to say no. It's totally hard to say no. And if the workaround for that, if there's somebody who you don't want to work with, have a couple of agents on deck, either within your brokerage or just within your city, and get a referral fee out of it. Like, hey, this person is not my personality, or I've been given business because the client isn't the same political view. And they're like, hey, I know you see life like this. I don't want to work with them. I'm like, I'll take it all day long. Yeah. We stay friends and we have great conversations. Yeah. And so that's another workaround. It's just like, get the referral fee out of it. So there's different ways you can go about it, but you really have to decide for yourself if this is going to be worth your time.
Yeah. And I think what you explained there, when you are trying to find the right clients for yourself, I think a lot of agents lack doing that. And I would even say, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not an agent, so I don't get down to the nitty gritty, but I understand psychology of humans pretty well, I would think, just from sales. But like, even if you go into like the listing appointment, right, with like confidence, being like, hey, this is where it's going to be, these are the numbers, and have a conversation with them. And if they're totally out of pocket with like what they want to list it at, like being okay to walk away is such a powerful tool to, one, especially if you're in sales. If you walk in and you're like, I don't need this, like I think this is the best for you, I think this is what's going to happen, this is how it's going to go. But if you don't want to do it that way, that's cool, then you can work with someone else. Like that alone is such a powerful tool. And I think a lot of newer agents are afraid to do that because they're scrapping, they're trying to find as much as they can. But if you do that, sometimes even the sellers will be like, oh wait, this person is ready to walk away from this house, like they must know what the hell they're talking about. Like, do you ever come or have that happen where you might be saying something they don't like, but the second you're like, all right, well, it's not going to work unless we kind of meet in the middle or do it the way that I explained it because I understand the market, then that's fine. You can work with someone else. Like, have they come back to you and been like, I want to work with you, I changed my mind, I think you're right?
Usually what I do is I take the sellers around the house and I show them things that need to be done. So for example, during COVID, I ended up being the second and third listing agent quite often. And I think that's an advantage for me because they're already tired. So they probably were ready to hear a couple things. But when I would go around the house and say like, this needs to be fixed, or this red wall needs to be painted, can you clear this out? Like, I'm not going to look at this. And I say it nicely, but that will tell me kind of how ready somebody is to take my advice if they truly want to sell the house. I walk into houses all day long. It is absolutely abhorrent how people live. Like, you would not believe how they get on. And the funniest thing is like when you see like a $16 million house and you're like, oh my God, I just want to know what it's like inside. And then you walk in and it's like, they still have their schleppy furniture from college and it's all mismatched and the rooms aren't furnished. And you're like, okay, this house is so much better from the outside. Like, those are the realizations where I'm like, do you have the money? Are you a happy person? Like, this just doesn't to me, you know? Anyway, I digress. But yeah, just those cues help me understand where a seller's at. Like, do they actually want to sell? Are they listening to what I have to say? Do they agree? Are they going to be hopeful in this sale? Or are they going to just constantly give me a hard time and we're going to butt heads? Obviously, that doesn't go for the houses that are already immaculate. That doesn't count. But that's definitely one way to step in and understand if you want to take the listing or not. And it's to counter that, when you're a new agent, it's very different. You don't have a choice. But I do believe that taking the listings or working with the clients who you don't like when you're new are actually what groom you to be a better agent. You have to be a chameleon. You have to learn how to deal with all these different personalities because you need the paycheck. You also want the experience. You're so hungry in the beginning that you don't even care what it is. You're like, I'll just take it. And that if you do it correctly, you will be able to reflect and grow, build your business that way. And it just, like I said, it just grooms you to be a seasoned, smarter agent.
Yeah, exactly. And like, yeah, I feel like new agents get scared of doing that, but it's just lessons learned. And who, like, the worst thing that can happen is you get the contract for the listing, you list it with them, you learn a ton, you get some back and forth with the seller. That's just kind of a hard communication. And then you don't sell it. And then and you're listing contract. But that experience probably sets you up so much better for the next time you're ready to list, because you can go in already knowing that might occur if you don't do certain things to the house. So then you can then communicate with the seller, get a better idea of what to do, better game plan. And I think you're totally right with that. But people are sometimes afraid to take that first step and get into it unless it's the perfect scenario.
It's never going to be the perfect scenario. I mean, real estate is real estate. Like, it's a roller coaster, it's a grind. But understanding that communication is number one is what's going to set you apart. It's not only using your words, learning how to deliver it. What words do you choose in order to get your message across? You can say anything you want to say as long as you say it nicely. So why not practice and choose? This is how I'm going to say it. Record yourself. You just learn. It's almost like if you what in your situation you gave us saying that, you learned and you didn't get the listing or it got canceled. All you can do is go back and say, you know what, this is what was sitting in my gut. I should have said it, but I didn't have the guts to say it. So now I know I need to speak up.
Yeah, it's all part of growing that thick skin, you know, and real estate is sales. Everything in life is really sales, and you just need to have thick skin and be able to tell it how it is. And I guarantee you the second that you get thick skin and you start being able to tell it kind of how it is and be a lot more truthful, transparent, your business will do a lot better. It'll be hard at first, because you got to deal with those conversations, but people start respecting you. And then word gets around like, oh, they know exactly what they're talking about. And you build confidence, you build a track record, and then all of a sudden you're just off to the races. So everybody likes to be liked. Everybody likes to say the things that make people smile. But I think, one of the worst things you can do as a real estate agent is come into a house that's worth $500,000. Be like, oh, this is worth like $700,000. Let's try to sell it for $700,000. And then the sellers, if they're not understanding of the market, they're like all happy about it. You try to sell for $700,000 and then it doesn't work. That makes you look so much worse as an agent than if you just came in and said, this is like worth $500,000. Unless we fix up this, then we could sell it for like $600,000, which is a hard conversation, especially if the seller thinks it's worth like $700,000. But it's going to set all the expectations where it needs to be for the whole process, which is important to do, I feel like.
No, you absolutely want to make sure that you are coming in as the expert. And again, it's not with an intimidating tone of voice or demeanor. It's not bossing them around. It's like, this is what I see. This is what needs to happen. I'm telling you what you need to do to make your house sell if you want to. And again, that comes with time. That comes with practice. That comes with being in a lot of appointments and understanding what works and what doesn't. What works for this personality is not going to work for this personality. So it's kind of, like you said, like understanding the psychology of sales and of people and how can I make sure that I'm what you like, but still being true to myself and giving you the best service and expert knowledge that I can give.
Absolutely. So I want to dive a little bit more into just some lessons that you learned as you were, you've been in the game for 18 years or so. And I'm sure that you've gone through many different markets. Well, you've gone through up markets, down markets, COVID, not COVID, high interest rates, low interest rates. So along the way, maybe just give us 3 lessons, maybe from the beginning that you learned, one like midway through that you can maybe remember, then a most recent lesson that you learned, just to help out people that are trying to grow their business or trying to get into real estate. That might be helpful to them.
Okay. In the beginning,
You're on the spot.
I know. In the beginning, I did not have the guts to go on listing appointments by myself. Partially, in hindsight, I didn't practice. I didn't put anything together. I would look at comps and go in there and wing it. I'm a Sagittarius, so I don't love to prepare. I like to just do it on the spot. And I would kind of think that I could just have the conversation, be personable, be liked, and move forward. And so I lost out on a lot of listing appointments. And so then I started bringing in a partner, and I would bring in a male partner so that we had a man and a woman, thinking that would increase my chances. And it's nuts. Every single time I went on a listing appointment with someone else, which I did it with maybe 4 or 5 different men, I would always get a response back from the seller saying, Lauren, we loved you. We would hire you, but we don't like this person. I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah. So that was a big lesson. It was like, okay, what I am and what I bring to the table is there. It just needs to be honed. And so once I put together an actual listing presentation, I have my listing presentation outfit. I really study the comps. I practice what I'm going to say before I go. That is something that makes me more confident walking in. I know I can be liked. I know I can be personable. So that was definitely a big one. Midway through was learning to delegate. That would definitely be the COVID years. Yep. You need help. I was sleeping 4 hours a night at that point. I was up at 3:30, going to bed at 11:30 or 12:30. There was just so much work to be done. And I just had this haunting feeling of, who am I? Why do I need an assistant? I am not I'm not somebody who needs an assistant. And the thought of getting an assistant was super uncomfortable. And so I just kind of took the assistants that were given to me. People would suggest someone. I didn't know how to interview someone. I mean, you don't know what to do the first time you do it. So I didn't have an interview process in place. I was just like, okay, you'll do. And I just had no idea how to do it. And now it's like, I go to Indeed.com. I have my questions. I have multiple interviews. You have to show up in person. I need to know how you smell. Do you smoke cigarettes? What kind of car do you drive? Like all those things that you don't even know I'm looking for. That's where I'm at. And so that's been a fun process. And currently, again, going back to Alex Hormozy, I love him. I always binge his stuff. Do you watch him by any chance?
Oh, yeah. I have a few of his books too. He's a marketing.
The books are great. The books are great. And so he and Layla actually just put out a dual podcast. It was just one episode, and it was about standards. And it was about the standards of your business, the standards of the employees who work for you, and how if you're going to be the leader, you need to be in that standard. You need to like literally show it every single day. And I've listened to it probably 4 times this week. Like it's almost like they gave me permission to do what it is that I inherently want to do, but I don't have anybody around me that has the same standards that I do. And I've actually been fired for having too high of standards. Not sure if I'm proud of that or not, but I actually, like now that I've listened to this, I'm like, you know what? I actually am proud of that. Like it doesn't bug me. That shows that I care. So I'm working on making sure that my standards are what align with me, how I want to present myself, my business, and not being shameful that I'm working too much or that I don't want to go on vacation or that I don't want to be social, because I would rather work on my business and make sure that everything moving forward is aligned with what I want to present to the world.
Perfect. No, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. Bang, 3 right off the bat. But you hit on some really good points. One is, let's backtrack, starting with the last one you said, is you got to set the standard, especially once you start creating like a real business, which is you have employees, you have assistants, you have people working with you. You have to be the one that they look to and realize, hey, that's how she's working. I have to work at least 90% of that or like 80% of that. No one's going to be perfect, but as long as someone's hitting like 80% or 90% of your standard, usually that's pretty dang good. And, I learned that from being in the military. That's how the military runs. Once you're an officer, you set the standard. And it's crazy how when I was in the military, I could see the difference between like a platoon where an officer was kind of slacking or they weren't like working out, they were out of shape. And you look at all the other soldiers in that platoon and they're all out of shape too. But then you look at the officer that is very like athletic and shape, like they're on point with their like uniform. Then you look at their platoon and it's the exact same way. It's like you set the standard as the leader, and that's part of leadership. Is you're the one setting the standard. Everybody's looking up to you, even if you don't think they are, and they're basing how they're working based on how you are working. And that's just human nature. So that's awesome. And that's awesome that you realize that too, because that just sets you apart from other business owners that don't do that. And then what was your first one again? I'm trying to think of it.
Trusting myself, being prepared for listing appointments.
Yeah, always prepare. So yeah, there's a good quote. What's the quote? Not preparing is preparing to fail, right? So if you're not preparing for something, especially with a listing where you have to talk to an individual about selling their house, which is usually the biggest purchase or sale of their life. Like it's the biggest money movement of their life usually. You have to be pretty on top of your game. You have to prepare because you have to be confident. You have to understand the numbers. You have to show comps. Even if you don't think you do, everybody looks for that. And yes, sales is all about being like, when you dive into sales the most, it's all about like being the best person you can be, because people work with you based on you, right? That's sales. Sales is person to people. You can have a slightly worse product than someone else, but if you're an amazing person and they really like you, they're probably going to go with you. But if your product is really, really bad, doesn't matter how good you are and how much they like you, more than likely they're going to say no. So you got to always prepare. Even if you're the best person in the world, you got to prepare.
That's so true. And you don't want to lose out because you didn't prepare when it's something that's in your control. If it's something that's not in your control, that's totally different. But if you had the opportunity to prepare, this has been on your calendar for 3 weeks and you haven't even like looked at it till 15 minutes before, that's probably not smart. And you're not going to walk in feeling good. You're going to walk in like shaking in your boots, like, oh my God, I should have done more. And the regret hits you in the moment. And now there's nothing you can do. It's just too late.
Yep. Yeah. I remember doing that in like high school. I would like be doing my homework like on the bus as I'm going into school. Yes. And it just created anxiety. That's what anxiety is. Anxiety is not doing what you know you're supposed to do. That's what anxiety is. So if you have anxiety and you don't understand what it is, it's probably because you're not doing something your inner subconscious knows you should be doing. And that's anxiety.
It leaves you feeling out of control, and like that feeling of out of control, which is, I don't know if other agents feel this. I've never really had a conversation with anybody about it, but it's like, I feel out of control when I start to book too many appointments and I don't have enough computer time. That leaves, because stuff on the computer gets pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And you get so many emails now every single day that you're like, you're missing something, but you just don't have time. You can't look at emails in the car. I can't look at emails when I'm in meetings. And so all of a sudden you have like hundreds of emails that you shouldn't have. And then you get called or text like, hey, did you see my email? And now you're dropping the ball.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and that leads us to your second lesson, which is delegating. So like the second you start realizing that you have so much going on that you as one person can't handle it, or it's just going to burn you out, or you're actually losing opportunities because you have too much going on, that's when you need to realize that actually delegating and hiring somebody or bringing someone else on the team, which in the short term costs money, right? It's going to actually boost your business more because you're taking so much time away from things that you're focusing on to allow you to focus on the most important things. So say, bring back to social media, right? Say you're spending like 4 hours a day editing videos to put out the best social media content. And the other 4 hours, you are actually doing the important stuff like going on listing meetings, talking to sellers and buyers, running comps on properties, doing showings, etc. Like, what if you could just take that 4 hours of the social media stuff, give it to someone else, and then you have 8 hours to then do the important money-making stuff while that other person is doing the supplemental marketing stuff, which is helpful, but it's not making you the money and it's not the big action moves that make you money. So that's very important, especially as a new agent. And like you said, you don't really know, well, I guess in the moment, you don't know when it's time to delegate, but usually it's when you start saying, holy shit, I don't know what is going on and I have way too much going on. That's when you should know it's time to start delegating something.
Or I think you said earlier, when you don't like a task, if you know you're just not good at it, or you don't gravitate towards it, it needs to get done, it keeps getting put on the back burner, that's also a time. I mean, there's so many ways to delegate now, right? Like if it's something with social media or at Fiverr and Upwork, you can hire all those people starting at $5. Okay. And everybody should be able to afford $5, right? And then when it comes to an assistant, I have two options. And when I'm hiring, I let them choose, do they want to be hourly or do they want to get a percentage of my paycheck? And I prefer that they get a percentage of my paycheck because it is so hard to manage your timesheet as a real estate agent.
Oh yeah.
And if you're hourly, I also feel bad talking to you on the weekend, asking you to do things after 5 o'clock. Whereas if you're taking a percentage of my paycheck, you are just as motivated as me to work because you're not getting paid unless I'm getting paid. You don't care what time it is. It's going to get done. You will move your plans. And those are the two different mindsets between an hourly and somebody that you're bringing in to train them as an actual real estate agent. It's not just a job. It becomes their life. And it's usually somebody that you I always tell, like, my rule of thumb, if you work for me, you have to care about this business like it's your own. Now, I don't know how old you are. You said when you were 25. So I hope this doesn't like offend you, but
I'm 30.
I usually hire like a 25 to 27-year-old person who is not just out of college. They have a couple years experience in the business world. They keep me young for sure, but they also like don't know business, and it's no fault of theirs. I certainly did not know business at that age, but it's a lot of training. It's a lot of my time that I have to give and teach them the standards, teach them the expectations, how you communicate. Here's how you do paperwork. Like, it's a lot that you give as the leader. So you kind of have to decide, like, do you want somebody who is seasoned assistant or someone on your team, like a real estate agent, or do you want someone that you get to mold? And there's going to be a trade-off for both.
Yeah. And I would say the trade-off is if you're molding the person, I think the biggest con that people think about, which isn't a con, I think it's such a pro, is if that person's hungry enough and they really want to learn and they really want to get good at like running the business, eventually they're going to get to a point where they're going to probably leave you. But that's a pro because that means that person is probably kicking ass with you. They were doing really well, and they probably set up things within your business that you weren't even thinking of because they're like thinking about how to grow your business more, and then they're implementing it in there, kind of like I call it an entrepreneur instead of an entrepreneur because they're working as an entrepreneur within your business, which helped you grow even more to the point that yes, they might eventually leave, which people think is a con and they're sad about it, but but that's just part of growing a business, and it's part of getting the best people. When you get the best people, usually they don't stick around for the longest time, I would say. Like, have you hit that point yet where you had such a good like employee that was doing really good to the point that they ended up outgrowing, or leaving, or going to do their own thing? Like, have you hit that yet, or
the last assistant I had was with me for almost 3 years, and he definitely learned a lot. He didn't want to be a real estate agent, but he did care about my business like it was his. He left to go to law school, so he didn't leave to be his own agent. He just, after working with me for 3 years, he was like, this is not what I want to do anymore.
But he probably figured out like law school just from dealing with all the contracts and stuff. He's like, law is pretty cool. And he probably learned that from working with you. And if he wants to go to law school, he's probably good at organization.
Yeah, he was great at organization. He had so many pluses that, he's definitely missed, but I know he's doing something bigger and better. And I hate to say nothing lasts forever, but it's so true. Like, you can't hire somebody thinking they're going to be with you forever. You said something earlier about how they're probably going to leave you. I mean, my brain instantly went to, you could incentivize them. You could make them a business partner. You could like cut them in on more listings, like do something so that you keep them around. Their job is going to change. They're not going to want to be your assistant anymore. But if they're a real estate agent and they grow to meet your standards, and maybe you're on your way out, maybe you're expanding to another city, maybe you're having kids, or there's life changes that even your life isn't going to stay the same, even though you kind of want to stay in your own world that you've created forever. So that could be like the roles are evolving. And when you incentivize somebody and show that you care about them, they're definitely willing to stay.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that people miss too, is that once you start hiring employees, it's not just about you and your business anymore. You got to make sure that employee's happy. And you got to think of like, in their shoes, what would you want? And you want someone that is giving you incentives, giving you the best opportunity to succeed, giving you a pathway to growth within the company. So even if like it's an assistant, like, are you given the opportunity to become a real estate agent and maybe even work side by side with you? Maybe even like get commission splits and start expanding your actual brokerage, like maybe open up your own brokerage, things like that. So you got to really think about people. It's not just like a numbers business type thing. It's not just plugging in a person, like having them do the job. Because if you just act that way, like they're a number, then they're going to come in, they're going to either work really shitty and you're going to be like, what's going on? Or they're going to work really shitty and then leave, which is even worse. Because then you're like, oh my God, I just hired that person. I didn't do anything, wasted money on it. And then you start thinking like, am I owning a business stinks because I keep trying to hire people, I keep losing money on them. But it's more, it's a total mindset switch. I feel like once you start hiring people and running a business, it's a different mindset you have to have, which you hit a lot of points there. And I would just ask, as you went from working on yourself, just by yourself as a real estate agent, and then you started hiring people, what was the biggest mindset shift that you had going through that? And because you're going from working in your business a lot to now working on your business more almost, right? And on your business means like you have employees now. So now you're trying to like make systems and things like that. So like, what was the biggest mindset shift during that whole change up? And sorry, that was a long-winded question, but my mind was going.
No, I appreciate it. That's actually a really good question. The first, it was kind of an awful feeling at first, knowing that I was responsible for other people's paychecks. That's a hard, right? Because nobody certain people, certain agents, good ones, always have business coming in. But after COVID, I decided I was going to take summers off. And so when you have other people who rely on you, you can't take summer off. I have to be there. I have to be producing because I need the income in order to pay them, or I need them to get paid. So that was number one, is oh my gosh, somebody else's livelihood and literal mortgage payment is on my shoulders. So that was a hard one. And then number two, you said it, is you can get away with your own shit and how you run your own business when it's just you. But then when somebody else steps in, even if they have green eyes, they still know if you're a shit show or not, and that you don't have systems in place, and that you're kind of unorganized, and that you're always scrambling. So it's almost like having you're on stage when you have people who work for you. Like we said, if you're going to be the leader, you have to set the example. And so as much as I try to make sure that I set a good example, I've also had to communicate how my brain works and why I'm doing this and why I want you to listen to this, work like this, dress like this. Because to me, it's common sense. You need to show up and be presentable and professional. You need to have clean hair. You need to make sure that your nails are done, all these things. But somebody who's not a business person and doesn't think like that would just be why is she always harping on me for not being in the right clothes? That's where the communication comes in. So it's really it's kind of put the fire under me to make sure that I have my stuff behind the scenes all put together.
Yep. And that's the fun part of building a business is it doesn't get easier.
No.
People look at entrepreneurship and owning a business and they're like, oh, that looks fun. Looks like you have so much time. And like people are just doing work for you and you're getting all the money. It's like, no. You have to make sure that those people are doing that work. You have to make sure they're happy. You have to make sure the systems are placed. You have to always be changing with the market because once your competitors are changing stuff, you got to compete with them. Make sure you're doing the same thing. You got to keep doing all this stuff. Like, sure, you do have like the freedom of not having to clock in, clock out, but you're clocked in basically every single day, every hour of the day.
You're 100%. So like I wake up at 4 in the morning, I go to bed at 8, and that doesn't really allow for a social life. Most people make fun of me and they tell me, I can't believe you get up so early. What the heck are you doing? You know, and it's like, if you don't want to, I guess, get an assistant or pay somebody, or you want to use those 20 hours to work towards a new skill, you're waking up at 4 because you have to do it outside of business hours. Maybe you forego exercise, you forego vacations. Like you always have to pay for it in some way, shape, or form. It's either time or money. So which one are you going to do?
Exactly. Exactly. So we're getting close to like an hour. I know you're super busy, so we can start wrapping this up a little bit. And I just have 2 final things I want to touch on. And I always ask people this on the podcast is, what is some of your favorite business, investing, real estate book, or even podcasts? You can even talk about your own podcast here too, that you would recommend to people that helped you get going or showed you something to help make your business and just your life better.
I love books. My goal forever was I read 50 books a year for many years. I've slowed that down. I'm at about 30 right now. My favorite book is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And it is, have you read it?
So it's on my shelf. I haven't read it, but people have recommended it on my podcast many times.
It's just a good book. And my favorite thing that he discusses is that if people love to say the word no, so if you can get them to say the word no, then they're going to give you more information. So I use that all the time on so many people and it works. And that's my favorite book. As far as podcasts go, once the Hormozis got onto the scene, I really like them. They have a lot of, like Alex really says it how it is. And then Layla is very strategic and she really like breaks things down. I don't know. They're just relatable to me. Maybe I just am on the same wavelength, but I really like them. My own podcast is called The Hot Girl School. It's to teach women how to have confidence. I don't want to say women. It really is for anybody, but we kind of direct it to girls right now. So yeah, it's just, we touch all over the board. We haven't gotten into business. We're both very business centric, but we haven't really gotten into the business stuff just yet. But we are working on just kind of getting all those pieces of life that you need in order to show up confidently. So no matter what episode you listen to, I'm sure there's going to be something in there for somebody. So, but yeah, reading, there's so many good books out there to read every single year. Like The Power of Moments is a really good one. It teaches you because you can apply it to people that work for you, and you can also apply it to your clients. And it's just like make every milestone within the transaction feel a little bit more special. I mean, it's another system you got to put into place, but it just gives you something to think about.
Yep. And I think the most important thing about, reading books, listening to podcasts, etc., is everything starts with self-development. So if you're not, the base of everything that you do in life is you, right? So you need to feel the best. You need to work on yourself the most, and then things will follow after that. If you try to build a business and yourself, you as a human, and I would say like broken, just not quite there yet, you're not your best self yet, more than likely your business will not take off and you'll be like, what is going on? And it's because you haven't worked on yourself. So I love that your podcast, it seems like you're more talking about right now how to work on yourself more. And then the books that you mentioned as well is more like a self-development type book, which I think everybody should read a self-help book. People always make fun of it, like self-help book, like why should I listen to someone else tell me how to whatever? And it's not reading it and like having someone tell you how to live your life. You just take bits and pieces from each book that you like, and then you implement it in your life to build the best version of yourself. Everybody's different, right? So just read as much as you can, listen to as much as you can to just be the best you can. And then the sky's the limit from there, as long as you're doing the best that you can on yourself.
What are your favorite books, real quick?
Let's see. Mine are like more real estate wise. One is like, the one that got me going was Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's a great one. Now, one that I just read a month ago was, where is it? Power of One More by Ed Milet.
Oh, that's a
very
good one.
So yeah, and it's mostly just saying like, hey, it's just one more thing. It's one more this that could change your life. One more deal could change your life. One more this could set you on a trajectory to get to the next step. So anytime you're sitting there and you're like, I don't want to do this, it's like, who knows, that one more thing you're going to do could change the course of your life. So if you go through life like that, then it's exciting because you're like, oh, maybe this thing will set me up on the next half of my journey. Who knows? And then another one that I'm reading right now is, I don't want to, why can't I remember? It's just called Buy Back Your Time. And
love that book.
Yeah, I forget who it's by, but it basically just talks about what we were talking about, delegating and being able to take away what's heavy to you to then allow you to focus more on what's making you the most money in your business and how easy it is to set that up because it's not that complicated. Like hiring a VA, you just got to set up the systems, which might take you like honestly a day to set up like all your systems. And then you just pass it off to your VA. And a lot of VAs are super smart. You just give them like a Word document explaining what you need, and they're just going to do it. And you're like, holy smokes. And it gives you more confidence in people, gives you more confidence in yourself. And it just, that's how you really start expanding your business more, which is exciting.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay. Those are all great recommendations.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I'm in the aspect of my business where I'm trying to delegate everything now and systemize. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on the most, which is exciting. When you get to that point, it's fun, stressful, and it's exciting. So
hard not to micromanage.
Yeah. And I hate being micromanaged. So luckily, I don't know if, sorry to sidetrack, but like the people that I've hired, like I don't micromanage at all. And because that's how I like to be. I'm like, just give me a task and I'll get it done. Like, don't talk to me anymore. Just give me the left and right radius you need me to stay within, what you want the goal to be, what you want it to be done, and I'll get it done. And give me a date it needs to be done, and I'll get it done. Then stop talking to me, and it'll get done. And that's how I treat my employees. I just like give them, what I need. And I'm like, can you get this done by this date? And I just leave them alone. And they love it. They're like, oh my God, like you don't micromanage at all. Like, this is amazing. It's the best like boss I've ever worked for. It's weird to be called a boss. I'm like, what? but yeah, it's weird because like sometimes I feel like, should I be micromanaging more? But I'm like, I don't know, because they're getting stuff done. But I would say that I've learned that micromanaging never really works. But
and it also like takes up more time when you're the person in charge. But the thing about micromanaging is that you learn as the leader. There's so many ways to go from point A to point B, right? You kind of, if you're a micromanager, you want someone to go from point A to point B the way you want them to go. But maybe there's 6 other ways to go and it's still going to get done. And if you didn't know the track that got them there, would you be upset if it wasn't your way, but it still got done? No, that's the micromanaging psychology.
Yeah. And that's also why I love the fact that you give options to your employees, like one's hourly and then one's a percentage of like commissions that you make. Because the way that I look at it is I would give, as I hire, I give all my employees unlimited pay time off. I give only salaries. I would never give an hourly. And it's because I don't care how fast you get stuff done. I'm going to pay you based on how much I think that like your tasks are worth. And if you get it done in 5 minutes and you don't work the rest of the week, I don't care. I'm paying you for that. Like, I don't need you to clock in. I don't need to see that you are hourly clocked in. I just need to see the task get done. And if you build a business within my business, like say I'm paying someone like $60,000 and then they go and like hire somebody for like $20,000 to do all their work for them, but it's getting done and then they're taking $40,000 off the top. I would be, honestly, if I found out, I would be like, you're brilliant. That is what I want you to do. Now your life is so much easier. I was like, can you now do this, what you just did with this aspect of my business too? And I'll pay you $100,000. Like now you're like my CEO type person. Like that's awesome. Like I want, like that's the way that I look at it is like, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to set me up for failure or not, but we'll see. You live and learn, and you just keep learning as you grow your business.
Some mistakes are expensive and some aren't. You just learn.
Yeah. You just got to be ready for the risk and not over leverage yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we'll wrap this up. I just wanted to give you the floor for the end, just to tell the audience how to connect with you, maybe meetups that you run or attend, or charity events that you do, business links, social media handles, whatever you want to talk about. The floor is yours to close us out.
Yeah, I just work. Many of those things. I am working on it. I used to volunteer and I'm going to start volunteering again this year with animals. So one day I'll have something to share there. But all social media handles are Lauren M. House. My website's laurenmhouse.com. My email is lauren@laurenmhouse.com. So it's all very simple. I'm happy to talk to anybody and reach out, and whether it's helping, buying or selling, or even just getting into real estate.
Love it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lauren. It was awesome to have you on. I'm going to have to listen to your podcast and then just keep up with seeing what you're doing, because you do big things and I love your videos. I love your content and you're killing it. So it's exciting to see that. And I love having people on that are just doing really well in life and spreading that knowledge as well.
Yes, we can all use a little bit more. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it. This was so much fun.
Awesome. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be back with another podcast soon, but we're out. See ya.